Again, there you are. I almost didn't see you, but here you are, one more time. So, what is happening in the world? Well, let's see. Apart from all the war and devastation, which is happening in many places, namely Israel, the Gaza Strip, Ukraine, Russia, any number of wars you want to point at, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Syria, you name it. There's no shortage of violent conflicts in the world. Apart from that, which is of course a whole massive topic in and of itself, there are still other things happening, as there usually are, right? Even during the major wars, or even the world wars that have happened, World War I and World War II, from the 20th century, there's still other things happening. And why is that important? Well, if you're a marketer, part of your role in an organization is to carry the message forward for what you're marketing, regardless of the events happening across the world or around the world. And why that's important is because you can't let something like war completely take you off of your focus. Now, of course, when war breaks out, especially if it breaks out in a region that directly impacts you, well then, yes, obviously, there are going to be some immediate effects on your ability to stay focused on carrying out your message. And depending on what you do, depending on the message you have to carry, you may be impacted in such a way that it will change your message, at least temporarily. However, and this is one of the ugly parts of war, but it's an ugly unspoken part, but it's the thing that actually affects people in their real life when they're not actually on the battlefront or when they're not actually in an impact zone. The routine of life is in many ways unyielding. If you're not actually in the hot zone, if you're not actually in harm's way, right? Once the immediate danger has passed, there may still be midterm and long-term, or even short-term, midterm and long-term dangers and threats that affect your potential reality. Yet the overall progression of life does not simply stop because of wars. Sad as that may seem to many who have not experienced war, it is nonetheless a very real fact of life that war happens and people kind of, in a weird way, get used to it, as sad as it is to say. And so what that means is that people who live in a war zone but are not necessarily at the front, right, and have some distance between themselves and the worst of the action, they continue to do what they normally do as much as possible. Right? Now, obviously, this changes from location to another, and this depends very much on your context. So, if you have a job that is, an essential job selling groceries, and your job is to market the supermarket or chain, your work may not necessarily be impacted on a day-to-day level. However, you most certainly will notice an impact in terms of the messaging that you might put out, special sales or deals, coupons or discounts that you might put out, There might be, special savings you make available to people who are on the front. You might even do charity collections of, goods that you can deliver to people who are serving on the front. There's no shortage of special messaging that you might do if you happen to be marketing something as simple as a supermarket chain. Well, it's not so simple, but it's a simple concept, right? So there are also, of course, any number of routine things that you still have to do, right? If there are holidays coming up, or if there are just regular, normally scheduled events coming up, to which you might have to put some extra effort to drive more sales, right? To drive more feet into your stores, whether that's refreshing your coupon book or your, what's available on sale. If you have an online ordering system or an online website, a website with your catalog of goods that are available, right? You might need to update that, and that you're going to do regardless of whether or not there's combat 50, 100, 200 miles away from you, right? Or further. Depends on the size of your country, the location of where the battles are happening, etc. So you'll very much be affected in your day-to-day work. However, much of your day-to-day work has to continue because the chances are that there is a significant amount of population who are continuing with their daily routines. Part of the reason for that is that because part of winning a war is the psychological factor, the public support and everything else. And that means you very much don't want your society to just break down because of some acts of violence. You want society to maintain its backbone. You want people to continue going around their daily lives and know that they can rely on the basic goods and services that they need to perform their routine tasks and carry on. So, that said, it's very important to continue with your routine work and to make sure that the services you provide, whether they're hard goods or other products and services, remain a stable system for the people that are affected by the war that you happen to be affected by as well. All right, that's enough for now. Happy marketing.